Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to S.H.I.E.L.D. Discussions. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm the real Manos.
Welcome back, Manos. It's time for more Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Manos, if there was a theme song for this show, what would it be?
That would be it, the one I just did.
Really? That would be it?
It's got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They will never yield, or something like that.
And it wouldn't be any longer than that either.
Well, that would be the chorus.
It would. Oh, okay. I figured it would just be in line with the way we do theme songs and shows now, where it's like 5 seconds and then we're out.
Well, give me a second. I just wrote that literally 10 seconds ago. I'll come up with more in 20 more seconds.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, that was pretty good. You got a rhyme in there and everything.
That's right. And I had that 80s white guy rock yell thing.
Manos, let's go ahead and start off today's show with some questions and comments from our audience on our last show when we talked about Yes Men with Dan Torrey. B. Dabba says, do you think that alien will regenerate and get out now that the building was destroyed?
Yes. How about you?
Well, I don't know. I don't think that's a bad idea or a bad potential prediction. Although it's been a couple episodes now, and I feel like if that had happened, we would have heard about it by now.
If it does happen, seriously, if it does happen again, we'll see that in. Oh, you mean that dead alien in the tank?
Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
Oh, well, we won't see that alien specifically. But if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it later? Didn't I see a news item that it was announced that that was a Kree?
I think I read that too, and I don't know if that's completely confirmed or not. I kind of want to let the show tell me that, but yeah, that's what I read.
True. I seriously think they're setting up the Kree, and I think I may have mentioned this last episode. I think Marvel has their eye on Captain Marvel, and laying in the
That's what.
ground. What's that?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they have to start laying in the groundwork. We'll either see Captain Marvel. We'll probably see Carol Danvers either show up in one of the Marvel movies, or I wonder if they would debut her in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, and then
I wouldn't rule it out.
Especially if they get everyone's fan favorite casting choice, Katie Sackhoff, who has done both TV and film, like back and forth rather effortless.
Yeah, Sackhoff would fit really well in this continuity.
Yeah, and you could and she's a big enough star where you could jump her to a film series.
Yeah, that's a good point also, and they're finally starting to get bigger names in the show and more people that folks are familiar with. So yeah, I could see them getting Sackhoff. That's a really good idea. Optimus Klein says, even though I think the blue alien is a Kree, I think it would be interesting if it was an Atlantean instead. They could bring in Namor, play with Atlantean history, and basically give Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a playground that's not movie related. I put that in here because there is, and we'll talk about it later, there is an obscure reference to something Namor related in this episode.
Oh, I must.
And so I think it's kind of funny that was mentioned. But yeah, I'm with you. I think it is ultimately finally going to turn out to be a Kree. But yeah, Atlantean stuff would be good. I don't know if they have. At first I didn't think that they had the rights to do Namor stuff because I thought he was wrapped up with Fantastic Four.
Possibly, yeah. He's just such a classic Marvel character.
He needs to show up somewhere.
He predates the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I think that's another one of those characters that needs to eventually be mined and put on screen because we're getting the general population more and more familiar with these classic characters. That's one that is still obscured for people.
True.
That probably shouldn't be.
I think if they are eventually going to bring Namor in, I would be surprised if he had his own film. I frankly see him as a supporting player in someone else.
He's not going to get his own movie.
No.
Yeah. Although I would have said the same thing about Ant-Man.
Yeah, but Ant-Man... Ant-Man is... Well, the Scott Lang Ant-Man. He's a little bit more likable than Namor. Namor, I think, is a tough sell.
I think you get 100 Marvel fans in a room and say who's more likable, Hank Pym or Namor, and you're gonna get about a 50-50 split.
Oh yeah, well Scott Lang, I'd put my money on than Namor, but Hank Pym, that's kind
But
of.
that's a
I mean,
poll I'd like to take. Who's more likable, Namor or Hank Pym?
oof, I can't even answer that.
You can't answer that. Yeah, that's great. That is I
I,
broke the computer with that. That yeah.
and Hank Pym isn't even the star of his Ant-Man film. He's going to be like a mentor or supporting character.
Oh,
So,
I didn't even know that. I've not looked much into that yet.
oh Scott, the Ant-Man, the lead of Ant-Man is Scott Lang, the second Ant-Man.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, forgive me for not knowing that, but like I haven't looked into that movie at all.
that's okay. It's being done by Edgar Wright and
Yeah, I
frankly,
knew that, and that's about what and I saw a little bit of that like leaked trailer footage or whatever that they had.
I love Edgar Wright, and I if he did a Batmite movie, I'd watch it. So
Uh, Manos, you know you'd go to a Batmite movie no matter who made that.
at
Uh,
gunpoint, yes.
Blue, Blue Dragon 5 made an amusing joke. He said, "Well, it's not so much as a red herring as a blue herring." But jing. Below 61 is disappointed that nobody mentioned the hilarious line from last episode, Philip, son of Cole. That was actually my favorite line. That was the line I wrote down. Totally skipped over my favorite line last time.
Oh, that is a funny line.
Didn't even bring it up, but I loved that line. Yeah, so I'm saying it now. That was hilarious
I sh-
and belonged in a Thor movie. It was really funny. Jesse Tribble, by the way, is that your actual last name? Because that last name is awesome.
mhm.
From the Cap 2 premiere, the actor who plays Agent Stillwell said his scene in this episode leads right into a scene in Cap 2. So that's interesting. And in fact, I looked that up, and the scene in question is about the boat that he goes to. He says in this episode he's got to catch a boat, and apparently there's a scene with him on a boat in Cap 2
Oh,
that gets captured by Batroc the Leaper.
oh, okay.
And he says, in regards to sending an army of females, it's hard to notice, but the SWAT team, and a couple other people mentioned this too, they send to the hotel before Lorelei and Ward hijack the plane are all females. You can hear the extras' voices, and they're girls, and this was pointed out in the cast tweets. I didn't notice that, and I wish they'd made that more explicit.
I did not notice that either. I mean, they're up in. Well, you barely see a good shot of them, and they're in that SWAT gear.
Yeah,
Um,
they should have made that really explicit
yeah,
because
like one
that's,
close up would have given me all I need.
yeah, because that makes them look really smart. Austin Maines, I have a theory about the clairvoyant. What if it's Fitz or Simmons or possibly both? And now we know that that's not the case, but that would have been interesting. Um,
Hmm.
he said that would explain how the clairvoyant is able to know exactly what the agents are doing. But what's kind of neat is in a roundabout way, this person sort of called it
True. Yeah.
in saying that because no, it's not. It doesn't seem to be Fitz or Simmons, but it is a Shield agent, and that I guess we'll talk about that in a minute. But that completely sideswiped me. I was so excited to get that surprised by something in this show. I did not even kind of see that coming.
Hmm. Let's get
Okay,
into this.
let's go ahead and get into it. The title for this episode is "The End of the Beginning," and no, it is not a Smashing Pumpkins song. I really like this title for a couple of reasons. I think it's kind of funny that and I don't know if they did this on purpose, but it really kind of sounds like they're coming right out and saying, "Okay, guys, we're done being slow uh, and kind of sitting on our hands, waiting to get to the juicy stuff. Here's the juicy stuff, because fans have been complaining that this entire time it feels like one really stretched out pilot and not enough is happening. It's really funny in this show, 7 episodes before the end of the season, to call an episode the end of the beginning.
I agree.
Kind of love that, but it also plays into the, what's actually going on in the episode, because nobody really had any idea what was going on with the clairvoyant, and finally stuff's going down.
True. I did have my theories, but to be honest, as a viewer, I decided to just let myself go with it and just see where they ended up at whatever point they were. I knew in the opening credits of the episode when I saw the name Brad Dourif, it was like, oh, he's gonna
Yeah,
be the
Brad Dourif.
clairvoyant. Yeah.
And that was an inspired casting choice, especially because, I mean, I will say that it would have been really cool to actually see Brad Dourif play a Marvel supervillain.
True, include especially like Modoc.
If it was anybody we were talking about, even if they had to recast the leader, he wouldn't have been a bad pick.
Oh, I was thinking, because I was thinking, oh my God, Brad Dourif played the leader, because
Yeah.
that's what I was
And it's
thinking.
not that, and I'm sure some people were a little bit disappointed by that because we've been saying this whole time, they've been building up the clairvoyant so hard, really dragging us along on this, that stringing us along, that it's got to be somebody we've heard of. But I got to tell you, man, if it turns out that it's not actually somebody that's telepathic as is suggested here, and that it's a Shield agent, and that the whole thing is a giant conspiracy, that could be as satisfying.
Yeah. Well, I've never been
Because this kind of conspiracy stuff is what this show's been missing.
true, and that's one of the things about Shield, and that's one of the things that was hinted in the Avengers movie. Really, uh, was this kind of stuff. Who do you trust within Shield? Captain America had those doubts. Uh,
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. Well, because they were just doing really shady, morally ambiguous stuff.
mhm.
But now we've got the sense that there's somebody there that's being even more than morally ambiguous, actually like taking over and using Shield for their own for their own reasons. There was a lot of complaint all the way through the season that the Shield in this show does not feel like the Shield in the Avengers movies, and the Shield that has been that it seems like we're getting in Captain America 2 with all of, and I really kind of wish we'd gotten to be able to see that movie before doing this review. But like what we've seen in the trailers for that, and then all of a sudden, this feels like exactly the same organization.
It does. It does definitely. I
Which is
think.
fantastic. And I also don't think that it's necessarily like inconsistent either. It seems more like we've been looking at it through Coulson's rose-tinted glasses, and as he starts realizing it's not the altruistic organization he thought he was working for, we're getting to see more of what it really looks like.
I think the Shield we have seen has been basically, kind of like the Shield from, I suppose, the first Iron Man film and the first Thor film. Those guys.
Kind of wet behind the ears, looks a little bit innocent.
Well, not so much. The guys in the Shield agents in Thor really aren't that high tech. They're mostly like glorified FBI guys
Yeah.
in that film, as well as the first Iron Man as well.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Iron Man, I said innocent because in Iron Man, they kind of seem like they're just getting started and they don't really know what the heck they're doing.
Yeah,
And in Thor, they seem
yeah in
fully put together.
I don't think it's too unbelievable that there are different layers to this organization. Yeah,
No, not at all.
the,
Well, it's gigantic. It's enormous.
yeah. I mean the super cool center with all this awesome sci-fi stuff we see in the Avengers movie, but there have been little layers of it. Like in the Thor movie, for instance. Those guys don't seem that different than CIA or FBI. And there's got to be these different branches if it's so big, and also that's going to be really interesting to see. I guess maybe it's a little too early to talk about this or not. I guess we're going to start seeing sort of the civil war within Shield.
Yeah, which is really exciting to see this early and kind of feels like they're stepping up their game and pushing forward and pushing envelopes a little bit. The thing that immediately perked my ears up and got me excited this episode, Manos, was having every major Shield agent minus Nick Fury on the airplane.
Yeah.
That we've seen so far. It was really cool to see everybody together like that. It was really cool to get major Shield agents besides our main guys, because after all, the show is called Agents of Shield, and we want to see more of that organization. And we're getting, like you said, we're seeing the different layers through these kind of figureheads. And I also I also figured that putting all of them together that way, there would be no way in the world to make that make sense, and it did. The idea of we've got to get up as high as we can in the airplane so that if the clairvoyant really does somehow have supernatural powers, he won't be able to read our minds. That's great.
Yeah. I was somewhat skeptical, frankly, that the clairvoyant was clairvoyant, because
I was too, and we talked about that last episode because so far every power that we've been told isn't possible has not we've not really seen any actual evidence of it yet.
Yeah, and also people are. It struck me that all these people had, this kind of like program in their head.
Yeah.
It never, there's nothing about that really seems uh, paranormal or supernatural to
Well,
me about it.
obviously not with them, but this guy had all this information that we didn't know how in the world he possibly could have gotten.
Yeah, well, maybe he's just a really good spy. So yeah, I'm glad that that's kind of like come out that way.
I like how incredibly theatrical the clairvoyant is
Yes.
because Brad Dourif, who is not actually, I don't think, saying anything that it looks like he's saying. I think that he is just a red herring, and he's just a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got whoever the actual air quotes clairvoyant is, who we now know is probably a Shield agent, with saying what they're saying with all the words popping up on the screens. It's super creepy. I loved that scene.
Oh,
So cool.
oh, that scene was.
And he is saying everything he can, obviously, to push everybody's buttons. I think kind of hoping that Ward or someone would do precisely what Ward did.
Mm-hmm.
And and the clairvoyant in doing that is I lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
um, is trying to make it seem like he has is trying to make people think that he has the supernatural ability. I think that that's all about misdirection and using theatricality to intimidate.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's got all these really cryptic, creepy lines in that where he's like, I couldn't see you, Coulson, because you can't see yourself. And it's really just because you didn't have the files. Yeah, God, I love that. He or she, because we still don't know who this is.
Yeah.
And I don't think. Why don't we go ahead and jump to? I love jumping to the end at the beginning, Manos.
Well, I can't think of a more appropriate episode than
Yeah, exactly.
the beginning of the end.
It is absolutely, after all, the beginning of it. When we get to the end and we see that Hand is doing evil machinations, I don't think that the show is saying that she is the clairvoyant.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she is being manipulated along with everybody else.
Do you think she just has her way of just dealing with what she thinks is the problem, and she's maybe
Yeah,
butting heads with Colton?
that's exactly what I think is going on. I think that she and Fury are both willing to do all kinds of morally reprehensible things for what they believe is the greater good. We saw that with Fury in Avengers to a point. Now he draws the lines at nuclear missiles.
Yes,
He
blowing
draws
up
the line at
billions of
nuclear
people.
missiles, but he clearly doesn't draw the line at resurrecting Coulson from the dead for whatever reason he did that. And Hand isn't drawing the line at dropping an airplane full of Shield agents if she thinks that has to happen. But I think that what she's doing, what May is doing, I think that these things are all manipulated by whoever the actual Shield agent is that knows
Do
everything.
you think May is working for Hand or whoever the clairvoyant is?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's 50-50. I think it's possible that May might be answering directly to the clairvoyant and doesn't know it.
True.
But also, she's just using a telephone to leave messages. I don't know if she's even communicating with anyone. Like, I don't know if there's anybody that ever talks to her back.
Yeah, because we never hear any voice. And
Oh, and she says she's leaving. Like when we hear it, she's leaving logs.
yeah.
So she's like making a directory or something. So yeah, I think that anything is possible right now, and that's one of the things about this episode is all I can really do is make observations because we don't have an ending. This is very much the first part of a big story, and ends on a huge, crazy cliffhanger. So all we can really do right now is conjecture and point at the things we thought were cool and anything that we think doesn't work. But even with this one, even anything that I might want to criticize could very easily turn out to be going in a way I didn't know it was going before. Because I mean, again, I don't like to judge stories before they're complete.
True. This is a lot like you're right. The first issue of a big story arc, and
Yeah, it's just like that.
it's interesting seeing that done in television before. Although I guess I've seen that in some TV shows, but I mean, really, and this is also, it's weird. It kind of reminds me of uh, like those Marvel side crossovers, like Frontline, that are companions to the bigger crossovers.
Yeah.
Like Civil War, for instance. And then there was the Frontline crossover, where you see the fallout from the big crossover. And the big crossover is the Captain America movie, and what we get in the fallout is going to be in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, especially with this Uprising storyline.
Yeah. And I think it's very interesting that it looks like Captain America might be setting up a bunch of stuff for this show.
Yeah.
Like maybe not even on purpose, but it's just obviously there's going to be a bunch of Shield stuff in that that like it might not feel so much like Shield is just doing the aftermath of that movie, as that movie has some subplots that set up some Shield things that they can actually run with in this show and flesh it out, which is what people really wanted for this show. To let it be supplemental, but actually flesh out some stuff that they can't do in the movies. We got that with Lorelai.
Mm-hmm.
Letting us with Lorelai and with Sif, fleshing out characters from that mythology. Sif got more screen time in that episode than she'll have in 3 more Thor movies if they make that many.
I would bet that's a safe bet.
I'd like to go ahead and run down some of my notes, and Manos, pepper in some notes yourself if you have some stuff.
Yeah, I
Uh,
do.
for more general overview, the first thing I want to mention is yay for Paxton being back.
That's
And
true.
could we maybe please let him just be a series regular? Because he's been in 2 episodes, and I'm sold on him.
I
He's my second, third favorite character, regular character of the show right now. Keep him around, please. He's great.
I love him. I don't know if he's going to turn out to be the clairvoyant or dead or
No, we're
whatever.
not going there. That
Um,
would be so obvious.
I would hate that. I would love him to be on the show. I would
Me too.
trade Ward for him in a heartbeat. Uh,
And I like Triplet a lot.
hmm Yeah,
Like I think
he's
he
just
and Triplet are both
he's
cool.
just such his character's fun. Bill Paxton is always fun to watch and listen to. I don't know what it is about that guy. He's just he's a completely underrated actor because he's so exciting to watch, and I just have fun every time he's in the in an episode.
Speaking of Paxton, his character Garrett early on says something that goes completely over Triplet's head, and he makes an obscure reference to the amazing Kreskin.
Yes.
And I looked him up because I didn't know who that was either, and I was like, I got to know what that is. He was a mentalist on TV in the 70s
Yes.
and was inspired by a famous comic strip character called Mandrake the Magician.
hmm
And I just thought it was really kind of fun to highlight the age gap, because that's something that he and Coulson really have in common. They both are older than most of the rest of the people in the show, and they make these references to things that nobody else gets, and they've kind of got this nostalgic vibe to them. It makes a lot of sense that he and Coulson get along as well as they do. Every time now that they've got him and Coulson on screen together, I get really excited because they're hilarious.
Yeah, it's just gold. They play off each other really well.
So I don't know, man. He should really be Coulson's number one, I think.
Agreed. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Let's replace Ward with him. It's like
Manos,
pull
give
off
us a
the
note.
contracts. Let's sign on Bill Paxton.
Give us a note, Manos.
All right. Let's see. What were you talking about? The guest stars?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be connected.
Oh,
Right now,
okay.
I'm just running through my linear notes.
All right. Well, let's see. I guess I really. Uh, I guess um, as far as a moment, I really enjoyed the ending when I guess Victoria Hand is in charge of the plane, and she gives that last line.
Yeah, that
Where
was definitely a runner-up for me.
where she says,
What
"Take down everyone except Colson. Leave them to me." It's like, oh, I
it's like, wow, you're evil now. Okay.
well, I don't know if you read Victoria Hand's run in the Avengers comics, like the Dark Avengers and then the New Avengers. She is.
No, I read up on that, but yeah, I didn't know a lot about her prior to this. I know that she worked for Norman Osborn
Yeah, she is not trustworthy at all. She
at
was
all.
Norman
Yeah,
Osborn's number one when he was in charge of everything, and it took quite a few issues for everyone to be convinced that she isn't going to stab them and kill them in the in the back. No one liked her because of that, but she did generally believe what she was doing was right, even when she was working with Norman Osborn, the most psychotic evil person in the universe.
yeah, and so it wouldn't really be within her character to actually be the clairvoyant.
Uh, she's always struck me as someone who will pretty much be capable of. She's capable of anything. You know,
Yeah, but
you read her in a
whoever that
scene, and
is,
you could see her doing something incredibly selfless or remarkably questionable.
but that's what I mean is that she's a morally ambiguous character,
She
but
is
she's not going to be really supervillain material. Now, whoever the villain is could not exactly see themselves that way, but this really does seem like kind of a take over the world sort of scenario. Like I've got to have control of all the superpowered stuff I can and of extremis and all that kinds of stuff. It doesn't seem quite in her character.
true.
I will do my best moment. We'll go through that stuff here in a little bit. I've got some more general overview notes first though. Um, I think it's weird that Sky was treated like a genius for thinking of a way to make it so that no one person would know the whole mission.
Yeah, actually,
Because because they're like only one person is gonna know. I was like, that seems like a bad idea. And then Sky's like, yeah, I don't think we should do that. And then Garrett's like, well, I like the way you think. And I'm like, dude, I thought of that before the opening
can
credits.
I be a shield agent? Um, my worst moment actually is somewhat connected to that. It's
Okay, we'll get to that in a minute.
okay,
Because we're not to that part yet.
okay.
Like I said, I just wanted to go through some notes before we went to best moment, worst moment. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm gonna be really curious to find out just how much of Deathlock is a machine.
It seems like we got that X-ray shot of him. He looks
Yeah,
pretty comic book Deathlock.
yeah, that was interesting. Because people are complaining that what I keep hearing is that he looks like he's in a laser tag suit. But then we get that shot, and yeah, he looks like comic Deathlock. I wonder if that's just throwing the fans a bone, or if that might be foreshadowing what he's going to look like later.
It might be.
Will they
It could be
will
either.
they go that far? Yeah,
If he gets hit in the face really hard, I guess we'll see that kind of makeup. But when they
but
had,
yeah, I was surprised that already he's got a metal skull
yeah,
or a partly metal skull. That was really cool.
not fun, not fun. Oh,
He also has a Terminator eye, and it looks awesome.
yeah, he looks really good. Um, let's face it, Deathlock has never been the most popular or best looking character in Marvel. So
No, but he
it
can be interesting.
yeah no he can be obviously, and I think he's used really well here. He's kind of he's in a laser tag outfit, but he looks intimidating.
Yeah, yeah, he does. Well, he does intimidating things, and I think that J. August Richards is selling it really well. He's got a very different way of moving than he did before he became all mechanized, and he's reminding me of like a fast moving RoboCop
Hmm.
in how he's moving. But yeah, I don't know. It looks really good. I've got some predictions about him that I'll get to when we get to predictions. One thing I thought was incredibly sophisticated in the writing is Garrett's burn metaphor. And I had to see it a second time before I caught on to
Oh,
this. Sky and Coulson are so we've got Garrett talking about how a third degree burn is weird because burn, it doesn't hurt right away, but then everything around it hurts, and that is foreshadowing what's about to happen
that's
because Sky and Coulson are about to get burned by May and Ward, and they don't know it yet, but it's actually kind of some of that's already happened. So it's almost like the wound is already there, but they don't feel it yet. And then it's going to impact everything around them. What a good metaphor.
I didn't even think about that. That's pretty clever.
Like I said, I had to see it a second time before I caught on to that. But I thought that was fantastic. And also just that scene, I thought he and Sky had a really cool rapport.
Yeah, he got along with. Well, actually, he gets along with everybody pretty well.
He does. Yeah, he's great. And yet seems more like a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent than most of them. You know what I mean? Like he seems like he's been through some stuff. He can do some stuff, but like him and Triplet both, they're kind of uh, they have this kind of light way of handling things.
Hmm.
I don't think they're eternal optimists or anything like that. I think that they've just made peace with what they have to be.
And I think they do believe in what they do.
They do. Yeah, they're kind of
Kind of part of
endearing.
what it's kind of they believe in what they do, even though they know there is some dark stuff in their business, and they're fine with it. Oh, they don't let it doesn't look like it destroys Garrett. He does understand. That's just part of it. Hello?
I'm just looking through my notes here. Um, let's see. Let me just make sure that there's nothing else I wanted to make sure to mention here. Yeah, why don't we go and jump over best moment, worst moment? So you gave us yours. Mine is uh, you know what? I changed it from what's on here. Actually, I wrote down the briefing scene with Sky and Garrett because I really liked that, but it's got to be that big scene I talked about earlier where everybody's starting to figure out that they're all turning on each other. Um, there's the thing is the drama is so good in this finally, like that's what we've been really waiting for is the drama. So when you get the scene where Coulson turns a gun on May, that's good stuff.
Yeah. I gotta say, the first half of this series made an interesting choice to make a spy series in the Marvel universe without any tension
Or much.
or any. I don't know. It's just like, hey, how's it going? Um. So yeah, this is at the end of the season. This seems like the show it should have been, in the first place. I completely agree on that.
Did you have a worst moment? I really didn't have one. I was pretty happy with everything in this.
Um. I don't know if it is a single moment, but
Yeah,
it's a feeling where I'm tired of everyone loving Sky so much. Like,
you're
talking
not
about
alone.
how
A lot of
super
people feel that.
awesome she is, and I'll shoot this guy because he's threatening her. Or, hey, let's give you some, like, Christopher Nolan-esque speeches about how cool you're going to be. Um, I don't know. I'm not sure what it is about this character that makes everyone so excited about them. I like Summer Glau a lot, and I find the character interesting, but everyone is like
That's not Summer
falling over
Glau.
themselves about her.
That's not Summer Glau.
Oh, Summer Glau, whatever her name is.
Yeah, I don't remember the actress's name.
But her, Sky.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I get that. I have always liked her, but I'm with you. There is a lot of kind of telling us how great she is.
Yeah, it's like, well, let's see
That's
her be
fair.
great, and then we'll lose our minds later over her.
Here's the difficulty. We sort of do, but it's tough to make us that impressed with somebody that is a great hacker because that's all script stuff. Like when you have somebody that is great at hacking into things and doing good and doing computer stuff, we don't a lot of the time we don't feel like we're seeing that person being a genius because the script can just say, "Hey, look, I hacked into this."
Hey, look, tap 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 tap.
You
Wow,
know,
you're a
when you
genius.
see somebody that physically does great stuff, we can go, "Holy crap! They like backflipped 5 times in 6 seconds." Like we can see them do amazing things, or Batman doing detective work. We like still that's somewhat scripted, but I mean, it's like, wow, I could have looked in that room for 5 hours and I never would have found that. But but when you're looking at somebody like Sky or like Barbara Gordon's Oracle, characters like that, it is kind of hard to make us that impressed with somebody that can push some buttons or Felicity and Arrow push some buttons and make stuff happen. But it can be done, and so yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying that I'm not impressed sometimes by her skills, and I do like the character, but yeah, there's something somewhat off about that.
Yeah, it
Um,
just seems.
where everybody is just so throwing themselves on the floor about how great she is, especially since it hasn't been that long since she was really not just unsure about S.H.I.E.L.D, but kind of trying to take it down from the inside. Or at least working with someone for whom that was a goal. And I mean, she's changed her tune now, and I do kind of like the theme. I do kind of like the idea, the family thing running there. And I love her and Coulson together. That always works for me. Her and Ward can be weird. Her and Coulson I always like. And the business about they're the only family she has, and now they have officially accepted her in the family by making her a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. I kind of like that moment.
Now, that ironically, I actually like that moment because I felt like that's what we've been building up to with this character. Oh,
So do you think that what Ward did in shooting that guy was out of character?
it was. I mean, that's why his
Okay.
behavior is so suspicious.
See, that's one of those things that I need to see. Well, I was going to say I need to see where it goes. I guess not, because he doesn't even feel bad about it.
He doesn't,
Um,
and I don't know.
yeah,
It's just
I can see
I
both
I
sides of it.
I don't think he was put up to that. I don't think the clairvoyant had him kill the fake
Oh
clairvoyant.
no, not at all. But pushed his buttons.
Or I don't. It's just like, man, he made one vague threat and he shot him. I don't know. It's just,
Well, the way I read it was that in the scene earlier when he was talking to Triplet,
yeah,
and Triplet was saying, "Boy, if I had the chance, I'd shoot that guy," and Ward said, "Yeah, that's not what we're here to do." I think that was him trying to remind himself what the mission was. And
yeah.
like
So
he's been through a lot of stuff lately. And the big thing was getting hit with the Berserker staff and having his rage come out like he did. So we have to keep in mind that this guy has been having to keep he's used to suppressing his emotions.
hmm
He's kind of like a soldier Vulcan in a way. Where he's used to keeping his emotions suppressed all the time, but then that became a lot harder when he got hit by the Berserker staff. And he's still pretty good at it, but I think that there's a lot more billowing up
mm,
that nobody's able to see.
yeah.
The difficulty is, how do you act that? How do you let the audience know that that's been building this whole time, to where it is possible for someone to say the wrong thing and him go half cocked? But then the other thing is, he kind of sort of seemed to go half cocked, and then he says, "But I don't feel bad about it because he doesn't."
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm of two minds about it, because at the same time, it's sort of like, well, don't you feel bad that you shot the guy that might have possibly been able to help you find the real clairvoyant, now that you know that it's not like, when he says that, I'm not sure. I don't think that they know yet that there's somebody else that really is the clairvoyant. I wonder if he's going to change his tune a little bit whenever he finds out that, oh, I didn't actually shoot the the real one. It was a decoy.
Like,
What? Yeah. So I don't know. That's a little bit awkward, but I can sort of see it. I don't know. It might win me over a little bit more than it is right now, and there's a part of me that kind of likes it.
well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it plays out. Really. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I hope that's what happened. I hope he is part of it. Because I'm not convinced by his anger because I find him to be so far giving a fairly bland performance, even when he is angry. I'm talking
See, I think
specifically of
he's
this
just a
actor. I've
berserker.
not been
I
impressed by Ward at all.
Well, that's fair, and you're not alone. A lot of people say that. I've been reading today a lot of people saying things like, well, it seemed to come a little bit out of nowhere, but at the same time, it's nice to finally see him do something human. So, I mean, I'm back and forth on it.
I actually think I don't know. Maybe that scene was written with him more focused, talking to the clairvoyant. Um, because the end of seven, it wasn't. Um,
Yeah, no, that's totally fair.
it should have felt like the end of seven, but it didn't. And I think that makes. I thought that was a fairly awkward end to a really cool scene.
Yeah, and I mean, it was,
And
again, they're looking to finally do some great drama with finally kind of creating a big riff with these characters. And I think that with the case of Ward and May, it's working brilliantly. And with that, it's interesting. I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, like I'm back and forth on it. I buy it and I don't buy it, but then it's creating a really interesting dramatic situation. So yeah, I don't know.
Both
It's
sides.
rough.
But
Um,
yeah, I
what's
will say that I guess that was my worst moment of the episode is Ward shooting the clairvoyant, quote unquote.
what's the big idea? Pretty clear stuff here. We've got betrayal. We've got lack of trust. We've got manipulation. We have got all of the stuff finally in this episode that everybody wanted. With this show, we've got mystery, intrigue, double crossing, duplicity, strategic manipulation, foot chases.
Da da da! Not foot chases.
And maybe a really cool conspiracy plot. I mean, like it could be argued that, and I mean, we've been saying the last few episodes that this thing is starting to turn into more what people wanted, but like it could be argued that there is a huge tone shift this episode.
I would say so. Yeah, because the
And I don't think it's even necessarily a bad tone shift, but it certainly has gone a more kind of dark subterfuge sort of direction.
it has started to remind me a little bit of. I know you haven't watched this, but the first season of the Ghost in the Shell series, which starts with a uh, a mysterious hacker character uh, called the Laughing Man that they're trying to figure out like what his moves are throughout the series, and then it actually leads into a conspiracy within the government that Section 9 of Ghost in the Shell series finds themselves in the middle and actually on the run, fighting against their own government. Uh, I'm with this episode. I'm definitely thinking of that show a lot, and in a good way. I don't feel that this is like purposely, riffing on that, but it definitely does kind of put me in mind of it.
Let's go on to guest stars. The only really new one was Brad Dourif, and like I said, I kind of hope that maybe down the road he gets to either play somebody else or something, because just the idea of Brad Dourif in Marvel kind of makes me giddy.
I know.
But he got to sit there and look super creepy, and we got to be, and it was his voice. I'm just really glad it was his voice because it would have been a total waste to just have him sitting there. For people that don't know who Brad Dourif is, of course, he was Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings, and he's Chucky, and he's Lon Suitor in Voyager, who's one of the places I know him from the most. And
He was also in the X Files. He has a
oh yes, of course.
he has an excellent X Files episode.
And I think nearly every guest star in the show has been in an X Files episode. Agent Blake, we've not really talked about previously. He was in one episode earlier in the season. He's back here, and he's by the way really funny in that scene with with May where he's into astrology. He was his name is Titus Welliver, and I know him as the Man in Black in Lost.
Oh, okay.
And thought it was interesting to see him. And I totally forgot to mention that when he was in before, so I thought I'd say it now. Manos, did you have a favorite line?
I guess I like the Kreskin line a lot.
Yeah, I like that too. I almost wrote that.
Let's see. As far as guest stars, how can we forget Samuel Jackson at the end of this episode?
Wait, he's at the end of this episode?
Yeah, and that super cool car chase scene that we see him chased in that SUV,
What are
and
you talking about?
then he's like being chased by those cops, and then the Winter Soldier blows up his SUV, and like, oh no, is he going to shoot him? I don't know. We're gonna have to check out the next episode of Agents of Shield, I guess, to see that. Or wait, where's that from the movie?
Okay, here's the thing. I read somewhere that no, hang on. I read somewhere that was there. I watched it on Hulu, and they didn't put that in there.
Oh, you didn't watch that? Okay, that's why you're
No, I didn't get to
confused.
see that. I read a couple blogs that said that was there, and I was like, where? So I thought that was just a commercial for Winter Soldier. I didn't know that they actually put it in like it was an after credit
It
scene.
almost looked like an after credit scene. I watched it on ABC, and then I watched it on demand.
Everybody else said it like what you said, but I watched it on Hulu and it wasn't there.
Yeah, well, maybe they showed it differently on Hulu, but it did have that feeling like a post-credit scene. Like, hey, I'm trying to get in touch with Nick Fury. Like, oh, here's Nick Fury. Um,
Yeah. Um.
by the
That's
way, I
that's
know
fine.
that was a scene from the Captain America 2 movie, so
No, I know,
don't
and like I
comment.
said, that's
and try to correct me. I know
Well, what I was going to say
just
is I
joking.
read blogs that said, okay, they just put a scene from Captain America 2 in like it was an after credit scene. But like I said, I was like, really? Because I didn't get to see that. Okay, I guess that actually
Man,
happened. Uh,
it was pretty cool.
my favorite line was when Victoria Hand, after Ward shoots Brad Dourif,
Yeah.
says, "I bet the clairvoyant didn't see that coming."
And that's very very Victoria Hand. She
And part of the reason I like that is because there's a little bit of a hint that she could be possibly maybe in league with the clairvoyant.
yeah.
So if so, then he did see that coming because he manipulated them to make that happen.
Mhm.
But I mean, I actually still don't think that she's really in league with whoever the clairvoyant turns out to be. But yeah, this whole idea, I'll tack this on really quick, of the clairvoyant doesn't actually have clairvoyant powers is kind of fun, and I hope that in the second season we get someone who totally has those powers.
Well, I'm sure we will. It's Marvel
I think that should
universe.
happen.
Oh,
Let's go on to comic references. There are more than usual. Um, Department H was mentioned.
mhm.
A few people are kind of freaking out about that. There was a reference to the Lemurian star, and the Lemurians I looked up, and this is the Namor connection. They are mermen who settled in the Pacific Ocean, and they have stuff to do with Namor. I'd never heard of them before.
Neither have I. I'm not the biggest Namor fan, so
Oh, I'm
that's
not either, but
news to me.
that was a neat, really obscure reference. Like I said, lots of stuff connected to Winter Soldier. The biggest thing being Sitwell saying that he's got a boat to catch. It's looking like I'll just mention this, that part of the scheduling delays were possibly less of their having to rewrite a bunch of stuff and more that they really needed this episode to air right now.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
A
Because
lot
they
of
have to
people are
do
starting to say that.
that makes sense. Because this episode had to be the week before Captain America 2 comes out. So next week we will have the beginning, I guess, of the Fallout.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so if you're watching Agents of Shield, I mean, this goes without saying, but you should probably go see Winter Soldier because you may not know what the heck's going on next week. And that would be a really weird thing too. If like this is the first part of a 2 or possibly 3 or 7 parter, given that we've got 6 more episodes, and I don't know if you know this, all 7 of these episodes are in a row now. We're not going to have any breaks,
Oh, wow.
which is fun. And so it's kind of interesting to throw a huge big budget movie in this universe right in the middle of a cliffhanger.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was about it for comic book references. The only other thing was some of the stuff that we were talking about earlier with Victorian Hand and how she's got some of her characterization from the comics. Okay, Manos, what kind of predictions do you have that we haven't mentioned already?
Oh, gee, we've went through a few. I would not be surprised if Hand is working for the Clairvoyant. Uh, just a hunch, just knowing who that character is. If she is, she probably believes she's doing it for the right reasons. But that's the best I can give you.
It would also, yeah, I mean, I'm back and forth on that. I guess there's a part of me that doesn't want that to be the case just because I'm kind of enjoying all the manipulation and these people not knowing that they're pawns. But it would make a lot of sense when she has that line where she says that the like after Ward shoots the not clairvoyant, when she says that this operation was a bad idea from the beginning, it's like, where does that come from? It was a really good idea. It was working, except freaking Ward. So like the only reason she would say that would be if she was irritated that they did it in the frame, because like the whole time she hates this idea.
Yeah.
And the only reason that it makes sense to me that she would hate it really would be if it's getting too close to her boss. So I'm thinking that they might actually give us some kind of another reason if she's not actually working with the clairvoyant, for why she was so against that operative
Hmm.
or that operation in the first place. I want to know what Mike's motivation is at this point, because he has that line where he says Mike Peterson is dead, which is potentially at odds with his motivation of trying to keep his son safe. Or it might just be one of those things where he thinks he has to put away his whole old life and his identity in order to protect his son. So I'm not sure how controlled he is right now, considering how much of him is machine at this point. Like, yeah, he's getting the words in front of his face telling him what to do, but other people that weren't robots have had that and they weren't actually mind controlled. But since he has actual programming now, it's hard to tell if it's still like he's got something held over his head or if he's actually being programmed.
I suppose maybe he's given up. Oh,
Yeah, perhaps so.
I mean, he knows he's not going to see his son. He's not going to return to the life he had. I'll be honest, if that happened to me, I wouldn't be far from that thinking either. I'm a
Sure.
fairly optimistic fellow.
Do you have anything else?
Yeah, that's all I got so far. I'm kind of pulling a more waiting and seeing how all this stuff comes together. We got not only the TV show, but we also have this movie that's coming out that's not going to star any of these people, and
Well, I've got a couple
it's
other
going to
things.
star a whole bunch of other people dealing with maybe the flip side of this, and then that's going to probably affect what's going on over here. And none of those movie guys are going to be able to come into the show, so I'm kind of just pulling a wait and see how things play out.
Well, I got a couple more things real quick. I think that Nick Fury has got to be in next episode. Unless they just happen to have a scene with him and Coulson and Captain America, and that's not going to happen.
Wait,
Uh, so like because in this episode we hear, hey, Nick Fury is back, and of course he's got to be back so that he can be in Captain America. But like, okay, Nick Fury's back, and Coulson's about to go talk to him, but then more stuff happens, and he's not able to do that yet. That's a conversation that needs to freaking happen already
I agree.
because Fury's got information that Coulson really needs about why he was resurrected and how that'll happen. And it's time. They've been stringing us along long enough with, hey, maybe Sam Jackson will be back on the show. That needs to happen as soon as it can happen. The other thing is,
I'm gonna make this
yeah,
uh, bet with you, and if I'm wrong, you can get a no prize.
yeah.
And I think the only I think we will see Samuel Jackson next week when we watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it will only be watching him talk about Capital One.
Yeah, it's also the first appearance of Quicksilver, incidentally.
That's right. Uh, that's that's my
Yeah,
feeling.
it might not happen yet. I think the other way I could see it playing out would be if he was all over the finale of the season.
That would be super awesome.
He's either going to show up and be in one scene in the next 2-3 weeks, or he's going to be all over the finale.
I
That's
doubt that.
that's what
I don't know if they can afford him.
we'll see. I don't know why, but my instincts tell me that eventually we'll have a couple episodes where Nick Fury is like all over the place.
I would love to see Colby Summers appear again. You know, her TV show, How I Met Your Mom or something it's called. I know that's just wrapped up. So
Yeah, I would not be surprised if she wasn't a big part of season two. In fact, she's likely to replace Victoria Hand's role. I could see Victoria Hand being written out and her being written back in.
I'd love to see her like jump onto the show. I really like her as that character.
And I still say that we need like a major like level 10 kind of character that tells our characters where to go and stuff. Like I still would love to see Colby Smothers like show up on the screen and say, you guys need to go to this place. Like, I don't know why we haven't had that kind of stuff
Well,
yet. Um,
that's the beauty of that character is she's always been kind of the other Nick Fury. Like when Nick Fury isn't around, which lately has been a lot.
yeah,
Uh,
she'll be the affordable Nick Fury.
yeah, she's been the one that's been there. I've actually gotten used to her being in charge of Shield.
The last thing I want to mention, prediction-wise, is I'm seeing a lot of people online talking about uh, how much they want to see Deathlock like become a straight-up villain. I don't think that happens. I think he doesn't stay a villain. I think it's going to be like Deathlock from the comics,
I,
where he'll eventually find his own way and kind of live above the law and kind of in hiding. And maybe every now and again he'll show up and help Coulson with a mission or something like during season 3. But I don't see him turning, going straight up villain as soon as he's finished with this clairvoyant stuff.
I agree. I agree. I think what we're seeing his journey in this show, it's going to mirror his journey in the comics. He was supposed to be. I think if I remember correctly, he was created to be like this warrior for evil or bad guys and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And then he, of course, broke away and did his own thing. I think that's what we're going to be seeing here.
and especially because that's been Mike Peterson's character since the beginning of this. He wants to be a superhero, but he keeps being thrown in the role of supervillain, and this is just the next incarnation of that for him. I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about Deathlock, but the few times I've seen him in comics, I've always really liked the juxtaposition of his name is Deathlock, and he sounds like this terrifying supervillain, but he's actually just a really nice guy. I like that stuff, so
Yeah.
I hope they do that because I think that's fun.
The last,
Manos,
yeah.
sorry, yes.
Oh no, just the last time I really saw a lot of him was in the '90s. Frank.
Yeah, me too. Well, what he was in Maximum Carnage. And
Yeah, he was. God, there's a couple of Spider-Man stories he would pop up, and Maximum Carnage was one of them.
yeah,
And
he was around about as often as like Cardiac and guys like that.
yeah, Marvel tried to really push him during the '90s because during the Extreme days, hey, he was kind of like those Extreme characters, so they started kind of pushing that character. Uh, he was kind of fitting in with the cable guys, and not the guys who give you TV reception. I'm talking about the
Although I'm
cable
sure that's one of his powers. I'm sure he can do that. And I'm sure current Deathlock has Wi-Fi. Let's go ahead and go on now to trivia questions. And Manos, what was your trivia question from last time? What was the answer?
My trivia question last week was Lady Sif had a run recently in Journey into Mystery. It only ran a specific amount of time. How many issues did it run, and what were the issues in question? And the answer, should I wait for a second, or I guess
No, go right ahead. Go right
okay.
ahead.
The answer to that question was issues 646 through 655. So just under 10 issues, really.
My question last time was, what are the new Night guns called? And I guess we're going to start seeing these pop up a lot because they were used all over the place here. And they're called Icers. I really dug May saying, "Don't worry, this is just an Icer," and Coulson saying, "Well, I've got a real gun, and I'm not playing around." Yeah, oh man, that was good stuff.
That was a good exchange too, yeah.
Manos, what is your question for this week, sir?
My question this week is about Victoria Hand. Um, who created Victoria Hand?
Hey, that's a great question. Whose hands created Victoria Hand? My question this week, of course, is always from the episode, is what astrological sign does Agent Blake think May is associated with?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I thought that scene was hilarious. Well, everybody, thanks as always for listening to S.H.I.E.L.D. discussions, and Manos and I, if things go according to plan, will be with you for the next 6 consecutive weeks.
Yeah, here we go.
Bring you S.H.I.E.L.D. discussions. Manos, are you ready? Are you stoked? Are you psyched?
I am ready. Let's tour this thing. Let's tour Shield discussions. Let's go to the Laugh Factory and talk about it. Let's go to local malls. Just talk to anybody.
Yeah, we wish we lived in the same area. We could do S.H.I.E.L.D. discussions at like a coffee shop.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We could like we could go to a poetry reading and then we could show up and do S.H.I.E.L.D. discussions. It's like it's open mic night. Yeah. It's like, what are you guys filibustering? No, we're doing a YouTube show.
I wanted to talk about my abusive dad, and you're talking about S.H.I.E.L.D.
It's like, yeah, well, some of those themes come into play. Just hold on a second. Actually, not really. I don't think there's been any abusive fathers yet in the show.
I can't think of any. No,
not really.
There's more in Adventure Time than there are in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh man. Well, anyway, thanks again for listening, guys. We'll be with you again next week. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm the real Manos.
and go see Captain America because it looks great, and we're doing that too.
Cool.